All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome to episode 283 of the Restoring Rapport podcast. Super excited for the content we got planned out for you guys today, as always. This is a podcast for young believers who are pursuing the goal of marriage and family and trying to get married as young as possible in a healthy way. I'm your host, Seth Hensley. I come on twice a week, every week on Thursday and Sunday to discuss not only the benefits of getting married young, but I attempt to equip and encourage you in your pursuit of that goal. And today we've got a really fun episode planned out. My friend Jonathan Whitaker, who's been on this show before, many of you may remember the episodes that he's been on, came over to my house this past week for a little couples dinner with a bunch of our friends, and he sent me a link to this video that is basically, on regretful parents and people who have become parents and are regretting their decision to do it. And just kind of there's actually, some trends on social media and hashtags and groups on social media who are kind of banding together under the banner of not liking being parents. And so, as sad as that is, there's a video that was made by Matt Walsh recently that Jonathan and I are going to review today. So Jonathan's here with me, and we're going to jump right into that. I've never seen this video before. Jonathan's seen it a couple times, but he said it was a while ago, so he needs to be refreshed on it as well. But I thought it would be a good, interesting video for us to review together. If only because, neither Jonathan and his wife or me and my wife are parents yet, but it's a direction we're both going. So naturally, anyone who, seems to be super regretful about their decision to move in the direction we're going is going to, at least make us curious and, at most make us a little bit puzzled as to why they would be so discouraged about becoming parents. So let's see kind of what their reasoning is, and then Jonathan and I will discuss what Matt says here.
Sometimes on this show, I like to read questions and quandaries from the clueless souls on the internet, especially Reddit, and try my best to provide them with a little bit of guidance. And that was the plan that I had for this segment, but then my producer McKenna suggested that I go to the subreddit called Regretful Parents to find some fodder. I did as she recommended, and I can report that it is one of the most depressing places I've ever encountered on the internet, which is obviously saying a lot. Just post after post after post of parents who view their children as nothing but a burden. And I thought, well,
Sheesh.
I'm not going to attempt to talk about this on the show. It's so bleak and so horrific. But then I decided that maybe I might have a useful thing or two to say to these people. Sadly, a sizable number of parents feel this way. We like to think that, well, no one ever regrets having kids. Actually, they do. And when that happens, it is a terrible thing. Terrible for the kids, most important. So I'm going to start by reading a few of the posts or snippets of posts. I hate mothering. I enjoy maybe 1% of it. It's given me misery on top of pain every single day since she was born. Giving birth was medieval torture. I don't like playing with her. I don't like talking to her. I don't like taking her to the park. I can barely think about anything I enjoy with her. Maybe cooking for her. I don't even know.
Okay. I'm going to pause it right here for a second, man. So this first one, you can see she is, this is kind of her statement on it. I hate mothering. I enjoy maybe 1% of it. Here's my initial reaction, bro, to this. I think, and I'll get your thoughts in a second. I think that parenting is super hard, but it's also super rewarding. And the only time, that it's, as this woman is describing, absolute torture and misery is if you're unable to mature and become less selfless. Because I feel like what this woman means by, her ideal situation of parenting would be a situation where she loses no sleep, does whatever she wants with her friends whenever she wants, basically only has a child when it's convenient for her, and she would ideally like to continue living her life as she did pre-marriage, pre-children, now that she has a child. And that's just not how life works. And I'm glad it doesn't work that way, number one, because if in the season of singleness that everyone has, you don't get the rewards and the joys of parenting and marriage. And if there are some, she could have been able to travel more or pursue her own, individualistic hobbies and things like that more when she was, unmarried and had no children. But, she's also missing out on a lot of the joys of marriage and parenting. And I think, again, that the only time you don't get the joys of marriage and parenting are basically if you enter those seasons and refuse to mature, and so you just suffer, because marriage and parenting demands maturity. in order to get the reward. So that's kind of, I think this page that Matt Walsh just opened is going to be full of people who, for whatever reason, were unable or refused to mature upon entering their parenting or marriage season, and so they think it's that parenting and marriage is the worst thing that you could do. When in reality, it's the best thing that you can do, and it's the even I would argue the happiest way you can live. And your capacity for love and enjoyment gets much bigger upon entering marriage and parenthood. It's just that if you refuse to mature, it's kind of miserable because you are not able to get your way all the time. And so that's what I think. Jonathan, what are your reactions just so far to this one woman in particular here?
Uh, I mean, she's venting, but I don't. I mean, there's actually going to be a comment where she's going to be more cool, so I'm probably not going to go there too much. No, she's
Yeah.
venting, but I don't really like the fact that going to forum because you're going to have a lot of other
Hmm.
horrible advice. It's just going to
Yeah.
be but I mean, I can't imagine what like from how we were raised. Like, saying something like this is a little concerning and not a little, a lot.
Yeah.
And she just it's a selfish approach. And I think she needs to kind of talk to somebody who she needs somebody to talk to who can help steer her in that right direction. Because
Yeah.
when you go to act like that, that child's gonna grow up with a terrible childhood, and the mom's gonna be resentful because the child's putting her feet on, and the child's gonna be resentful. A lot of dating.
Right. Right. And you're saying
So
basically that just a subreddit group might not be the place to go to for commiseration. She should probably find a
yeah,
friend. Yeah, right. I agree. And there you'll see. I'm going to play this video now, and you're going to see there's a lot. I think more stories like this in here. Let's kind of see what those are. But I think my reaction to them is going to be the same. But I would love to hear what you guys think. If you guys who are listening want to reach out and let us know what your thoughts are on this exact woman's position or the position of the other woman in this video. We would love to hear that. You can do that on social media, Instagram or Facebook. Just let us know what you think. But yeah, I don't know. Let's continue to see if there are any other, maybe more stories in here that give us a brighter ray of hope for parenting. Anyway, we'll see.
Barely think about anything I enjoy with her. Maybe cooking for her, I don't even know. Another says, my kids are 1 and 3 and they took away everything I enjoyed. I'm going through the wildest mental and physical challenges of my life. I had goals and dreams that are not realistic anymore. All my favorite activities are replaced by draining micro tasks, and it's grinding me to my knees every day. Someone else says, if I only knew this subreddit existed, I probably could have avoided the biggest regret of my life, which is becoming a mother. I feel so tied up. I want to get education. I want to work and travel. I want to live again and fall in love with life again. I used to travel a lot back in my early 20s. I always took part in some exchange programs in Europe and got to see a lot. I met amazing people. My son's about to be 3 and I'm just not having it.
Okay, let me just again. Okay, she says, or he says, I don't know who. Becoming a mother. So this is a woman. She said, if I only knew this subreddit existed, I probably could have avoided the biggest regret of my life, which was becoming a mother. Okay, number one, that is an awful thing to say because you now have a child who you are basically, it's a human being, and you're basically saying, you're my biggest mistake. Talk about worst parent of the year award material right there. I mean, that's something that's going to scar your kid forever. Number two, my point on selfishness is definitely standing true here. She basically just said that, the things she misses before she was a parent are traveling a lot in her early 20s, getting an education, wanting to live and fall in love with life again. All of those to me seem like very superficial and surface level life experiences that she wants for selfish reasons. So, I mean, Jonathan, what do you think about her? I mean, I again,
very selfish.
yeah,
I mean, look at the last statement.
yeah. I've been
She's thinking of
contemplating leaving them.
I mean, that's I can't understand that. I don't.
Oh,
I just want to know. It doesn't sound like she really knew what she was getting into when she started becoming a parent.
probably. I mean, but yeah, I don't know, man. I do. Here's what I wonder though. I'm wondering, is anyone so naive about the challenges of parenting that they and naive about the joys of parenting that they seemingly don't have, that they can enter relationship with someone, produce a child, and then expect that their life is going to stay the same as it was when they were single. I don't think people are that stupid. Now, I'm not saying this story's made up, but I don't even know, like, Reddit, dude, honestly, sometimes I want the stories on there are so crazy. Sometimes I'm like, did somebody just fiction write this? Did they just literally make this up and it did not really happen to them and they're just making a story on the internet? Because this is crazy. Number one, to say that you prefer periods of education and travel and what she uses the phrase falling in love with life again over the joys of parenting, to me is just, if there's no competition there, how wrong that is. I mean, when I was in education, it was miserable. When I was in college, I mean, I don't know about you guys, but I did not like college. It was not for me. It was not a time of fun for me. It was a time of discipline and doing something I had to do in order to make money. Like, it's not something a period of my life that I would elongate. Traveling, okay, I really enjoyed my traveling experience with my family. That was fun. But that's not something you can't do with children. Like, people think that it is. My mom took me to 48 of 50 states before I graduated high school, and she had 3 children. So people who say that you can't travel with children, they're just lying, number one. It's a lot harder. And again, to me, that says, okay, you haven't actually matured and risen to the occasion of difficulty that, your current life situation demands of you. You're just wanting to stay a permanent child with your own children and live the way you lived before you had children. And again, I think that's not maturing. That's a selfish approach. Having children is the biggest impact you can make on the world. And you might ask why you're only producing one person to make a difference. And you're not only producing one person to make a difference, because if you raise your children to have children, then before you know it, you have a generation that you've created. It's exponential growth. You have one child, you raise that child to have children. They have 3 children. They raise those children to have children. Those children have 3 children, and suddenly you've got 500 kids that came just from you. There's no bigger way to make an impact on, like, when I die, this podcast is going to be totally forgotten. Nobody's going to listen to it. It's going to get lost in the ethernet, and nobody's ever going to see it or hear it from it again. But my children will still have children who have children at that time that are still impacting the world and doing things. So you can act like, starting a business or pursuing your own hobbies or growing your own, nonprofit are ways to impact the world. But, having children outlasts by far all of those choices. And so I just think it's a totally worthwhile. There's no better investment of your time. There's no investment that produces greater fruit in the long run than having children. And so I don't understand when people act like this, honestly. And it's also I work with children for a living. I have 700 students right now for my job. I have students from, ages 4 all the way up to age 12. And at every age there are different joys. The young children, when I'm working with them and interacting with them and teaching them, they think I'm a literal superhero. I mean, they look at me like I am a superhero, and it's so rewarding to work with them because they think you're awesome. The children in the middle, they still have the sweetness, but they can understand a lot more of a lot higher concepts. So you can talk to them about things that matter more. When they get up to 12, man, they're reasoning like adults. You can have rational conversations with them. You can teach them why the world works the way that it works, not just how to follow rules. It's a beautiful thing. There's something new at every age of raising children and interacting with children that makes it super rewarding. And I know I'm not ignorant to the fact that parenting is a lot of work. I know that you lose sleep. I know that it's a full-time job caring for a newborn child. I know this. I don't know it from personal experience, but I know it because people have told me. And I know that it's a lot of work. But people who are good parents, you'll notice, and who have matured for their children will say that parenting is the best thing that's ever happened to them, along with marrying their spouse and following Jesus Christ. Those are things that people list as the best choices they've ever made. And so you can listen to people on Reddit who have miserable lives, or you can listen to people who have wonderful relationships with their children, and would encourage you to become parents. And honestly, guys, I think you should take advice from people who are where you want to be, and not from people who are shipwrecked on an island and basically just encouraging you never to step foot in the water. Jonathan, do you have any more thoughts before I continue on here and play the rest of these clips?
No, I think that's pretty spot on.
Yeah. I don't get them, man. Let's see what Matt Walsh. I'm gonna just play the rest of them and then see what Matt Walsh's take is, though, because he's usually pretty funny. I mean, sometimes he's a little bit aggressive for me, but usually he
Oh,
tries to interject humor. Yeah, so we'll see what he says.
I've been contemplating just leaving them and starting my life somewhere else. Another post says, I hate my children, both of them. They're 2 and 1, and I hate every single second they're awake. I can't sleep peacefully. I can't eat. I can't even take it peacefully. I'm tired of this life. I'm the only one with them 24/7. I'm so sick of it. My partner is useless. All he says is they're babies and something's wrong with me. How could I dislike my own children? In a similar vein, someone says, my daughter just turned 5 and I was already regretful about having her and having no love for her. We treat her well and I say I love her and all that jazz to not mess up her childhood, but she has now been diagnosed with selective mutism, which is a type of anxiety disorder where she can't speak in public or to anyone outside her immediate family. Her teacher says she doesn't speak a word at school and her peers keep asking her why she doesn't talk. I already hated life as a parent. Now I have to deal with psychologist appointments. What a joke of a life I've gotten myself into. These have mostly been mothers so far with these posts, but there are also some dads are on the forum. I'll read one of those just, to be egalitarian about it. Just day after day after day, and it never ends and it never changes. Incessant bickering, screaming, slapping, kicking, biting, fighting over every possible tiny goddamn little thing. When all my attempts for diplomacy fail and I finally snap and yell at them to stop, they act absolutely shocked and hurt by how mean dad is, and it works. I end up feeling terrible and apologizing to them, and on and on and on it goes. My brain and nerves are completely shot. I don't understand how they seem to thrive in that level of dysfunction.
Okay, I gotta just say one more thing. I gotta just pause right here. Okay, okay. Oh my word, man. Do parents think? And I realize I'm shouting from a high horse here because I don't have children, so I'm not gonna be like too dogmatic about this. But do people think that upon having children, the only form of discipline they need is shouting at their children to stop? Honestly, like that does not work. You have to draw a line in the sand and you have to say, all right, sweetheart, love of my life, little precious child of mine, if you step across this line, this is what's going to happen. And you have to find their currency. Listen, I manage a classroom. If you just tell children to stop, they're going to run over you like a truck. Man, they do not care what you say at all. You have to hold a line and you have to find what they value and you have to take what they value if they don't follow the rules. It's incredibly simple. Behavior management is really simple. You don't have to become some abusive, parent who's hitting their children or screaming at their children or being mean to their children in order to produce effective change in their behavior department. All you have to do is find something that they really care about. It's very easy. And then use that as an incentive for good behavior. This guy right here, he says, just day after day, it never ends, it never changes. It never changes because you haven't learned to manage their behavior. Children are selfish by nature. If you don't teach them how to become good humans, they're going to be selfish humans for the entirety of their lives. And it really makes me mad when I see parenting like this because this dad here is messing up the rest of his children's life by his inability to hold a boundary. He says they're incessantly bickering, screaming, slapping, kicking, biting, and fighting. That is unacceptable behavior for children to do. All of that. And so when you see them doing that, there has to be a consequence. You have to say, all right, you're screaming. You're going to lose this thing that you really love. Be that video games, be that a sleepover with their friends, be that candy or desserts or anything that kids really love. You have to take that from them and only give it back after a certain amount of time has expired when they are behaving appropriately. And they need to know that. And if you enforce that over and over, they learn that, hey, I control my actions. I don't control my dad's actions. My dad gets to control the good things that happen to me if I have good behavior and the bad things that happen to me if I have bad behavior. But I can control whether or not those things happen because he makes those decisions based on my behavior. So I'm going to choose to make a good decision now and get good rewards because I want those good rewards, right? It's like when a dog is barking at a mailman and you say crate and you put it in its crate and then you let the dog out again, and the next day if the dog barks at the mailman, you say crate. You say no, and you put it in its crate. And the next day, the dog may try to bark at the mailman, but it will be much more hesitant because it knows what's coming if it barks at the mailman. And if it barks at the mailman, you say crate, it goes to its crate. And eventually what happens is the dog realizes, hey, I don't want to go to my crate right now for an hour. I'm not going to bark at the mailman. And that is exactly, children are not dogs, and problems are not mailmen. I'm not saying that, but I am saying parents can manage behavior, and you're responsible to do so. There's nothing that infuriates me more as a public school teacher than dealing with the products of someone else's life who think that basically they set the rules in my classroom. And those kids, we are in for a rude awakening in my room, because I make the rules and you can either follow them or you can embrace the consequences that you are not going to like. And that is how you manage behavior. That is how you manage behavior. So, Jonathan, what do you think this guy is at fault for his children, screaming, slapping, kicking, biting, fighting, bickering, all this, or is that just me?
No, it's the parents. I mean, they're the ones who want things to go on. Matt Walsh actually comments and addresses that and has some points that I agree with, and some points I disagree with.
Yeah.
We can get to that when he says that, but yeah, it's it's the parents'
Yeah.
fault because they're letting the kids dictate the house.
Yes. Yeah. The mom's not the leader. The dad's not the leader in this home. The kid's the leader. The 5-year-old is steering the train. And that is a dangerous captain. I mean, you cannot expect
But
your
he,
boat.
in the sense that it's like a mutiny, it's like they see you as control, they're gonna lose control, and
Yeah.
they're just gonna kind of lose respect for you in a way because I mean, well, they're out of control, so why should I be controlling emotions? I'm going crazy, basically.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
is what he points
Absolutely.
out. So
Yeah, I didn't want to interrupt him here, but I just had to say that, like, you basically, to the parents out there who think that parenting is awful because their kids' behavior, it's like, no, you can actually have a well-behaved child. There are steps to get there that you haven't taken. And so,
they mimic
your
what they see.
children, yes, exactly. Your children are the product of your parenting techniques. And so if you want good children, you need to be, you know, practicing parenting behavior management strategies that are effective, because you can really have some angels. Most of the children in my classroom, if they have good parents, are angels. I have lots of angels in my room, but I have some demons because they've been raised by parents who do not hold a line. And so that's kind of what is going on here. But let's continue to see what Matt Walsh says here.
I know kids are dramatic and all, but I know I was never like that as a kid. It's bonkers. A lot of frustration there, to put it mildly. I understand parenting frustration. I don't understand hating your kid or most of what we just read there. But frustration, sure. When you have, as we did, 2 sets of twins, 6 kids total, you experience frustration. Our last set of twins were both colicky as infants. If you know anything about colic in an infant, you know that we dealt with about 6 months of constant crying, morning, noon, and night, from 2 babies, while also having 4 other kids to take care of. Now, I'm not saying that that's the hardest parenting experience anyone's ever had, but it's definitely not entry-level stuff that we were dealing with. So I've been in the trenches, and therefore I think I have some credibility to say the things that I'm going to say to all of these people and anyone who might find themselves relating to what I just read. First, a lot of parents who feel this level of anger and despair to the point of actually regretting having kids, it's at least partly because their kids are out of control and totally unruly. The kids are running the house, bouncing off the walls, ruling the roost, and you're at wit's end. Here's the good news about that, and it will sound like bad news, but it's actually good news, is that it's your fault. It's totally your fault. You are 100% to blame. Your kids are out of control because you are out of control. And I don't mean that you're yelling and screaming and losing your temper, though you might be. But even when you have your temper in check, you're still being ruled by your emotions. You are, I'm going to assume, angry, sullen, visibly overwhelmed, overcome by frustration. Well, the problem is that your kids pick up on that. They see it. And it's not just that they're imitating your lack of emotional regulation, though they are. More importantly, they see that you are projecting a lack of control, a loss of command, and they lose respect for you and your rules as a result. And that's natural. When a leader seems flustered, his followers become disturbed. And if this state of being flustered continues or happens over and over again, eventually they lose faith in his ability to lead. People who listen to my show know that I'm kind of a nerd about reading stories of explorers. Sometimes in these stories, something that happens are mutinies. And very often a mutiny happens because you've got a ship full of men in some uncharted part of the world. And if the men on the ship whose lives depend on the captain, if they perceive that the captain doesn't know what he's doing, is afraid, is frustrated, indecisive, overwhelmed by the responsibility that he has taken on, if the men on the ship notice that, if they perceive it, they lose faith in his leadership. And then there's a mutiny. So what's happening in some of these households is your kids it's a mutiny. They're staging a mutiny, although their reasons behind it are mostly unconscious for the kids anyway. Now, what makes this good news is that it's very fixable. All you have to do is put on a convincing front. Fake it till you make it. As some very wise philosopher once said, project.
It's also I would add this to what I kind of disagree with Matt Walsh here a little on the diagnosis that children are subconsciously mutinying. I think they absolutely know what they're doing, and I think children mutiny when not because they sometimes lose faith in their captain and think that their captain is weak or doesn't have the constitution to get them through the sea. I think children mutiny because they think I want this and this person is in my way. So I'm going to try and get them out of my way to get what I want. It's basic human nature. They see a candy bar, they see a video game, they see a sports activity that they want to do. Their parent says no, not right now, or maybe later. And instead of, taking that, to heart and realizing the parent has, a wiser mind and a more experienced life outlook, the children decides, no, I don't care what my parent says. I want that and I want it now. And so I'm going to try and control my parent by throwing a hissy fit, throwing a tantrum in public, by punishing my parent with poor behavior, by hurting someone around me because I'm angry. All of those are a child's reaction to not getting what they want. And instead of, holding the line firmly, sadly, what most parents do is they cave in order to avoid a socially awkward situation, like their child throwing a tantrum in public, or, they cave so that their child doesn't hurt someone smaller. And that, friends, is a great way to teach the child that, hey, sweetheart, you, Mr. Tyrant, Mr. Dictator, are in total control of me as a parent. You do whatever you want, and even if I say no, you have the control to change my mind. That is how you end up with a child who's 16, 18, 20, who is still controlling adults based on selfish impulses and urges. And that's a dangerous human being because now they have more power, right? And so that's another thing. I agree that, sometimes Matt Walsh has a point that could happen, but I think more often what happens is children want what they want, and so they try to control the adults in their life to get what they want. And it works. Jonathan, have you ever seen a kid like that?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, me too. Me too.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of the adults too. So.
Yeah, and the adults are the kids who grew up that way and had control over everyone in their life. They had no authority figures, and so now they do whatever they want and have no authority figures with the police. It's because like they've never learned that, hey, I'm not the final word in this discussion. And so I'm going to make everyone's life miserable until I get what I want. It's heartbreaking, man. And here's the thing. Parents have the wonderful and brilliant opportunity of preventing them from ending up there because their mind is young and malleable, and they can learn when they're young. Hey, my dad and my mom, the people who love me most and who are smarter and wiser than me at this time in my life, actually have the final word. And so I don't have control over them. I can throw a fit all I want, but they're going to hold the line because they know it's best for me, and they know it's best for other people, and they're training me and disciplining me to become a healthy and functioning member of society. That is what kids need to know. And so let's continue to see what Matt Walsh says. This has been a pretty good video so far. I like it. Other than, of course, the parent, complaints at the beginning.
The appearance of being in control, of being in command, of being unbothered, of being unflustered, happy, good-humored. You don't have to feel that way. Just pretend that you feel that way. And yes, it is a virtue to fake it in those cases. This idea that we should never, we need to be true to ourselves and be honest about our emotions. Oh, you shouldn't be. In fact, you should not be honest about your emotions most of the time. Like most of what you're feeling should not be known to the people around you, and especially when you're a parent. And you combine that attitude or the appearance of that attitude with consistent guidelines, clear rules, and clear consequences for breaking the rules, and you'll no longer have this level of dysfunction in your home. Bullseye. Your children will not be in a constant state of war with each other and you. And you may be able to enjoy their company and your own life as a consequence. Like many of you this summer, I intend to spend more time with my family, getting outside, traveling, letting go of...
While he's running this ad, I'll mute him and we can discuss this. Jonathan, what you recommended this video to me this past week. So what was it that stuck out to this video about to you in particular?
Well, it was just more the shock about what some of the parents were saying. That was really what stuck out. me, and I do agree with most Walsh's comments. Although that one he just mentioned, I did disagree with in the sense of nobody can know how he wrote them. I'm not. I don't. Partially yes, partially no.
Okay.
My
Yeah.
take on that is you need a trusted confidant you can go to
Yes.
for advice and to
Absolutely.
vent healthfully. That way, when you're venting like these parents are on these forums, that person can bring you back down. Like, come on, man. I mean, you don't
Right.
really,
Right.
you know. Instead of having the people who are feeling the fire going, yeah, preach, feel
Hmm.
the same. So I disagree about that. No, I don't believe in a parent absolutely faking it, telling nobody about it. That's toxic. That's unhealthy. You
Right.
got to have a trusted confidant to talk
Yes, I agree.
to
Yeah.
bring you
And
back down to earth.
yeah. And for those of us who are married, I mean, that's one of the great things about having a spouse. You you actually have that trusted confidant should you have a good relationship with that person. So I definitely agree with you there. And to hide your emotions from everybody, you're also not going to know anybody super well. Now, I agree with Matt Walsh that not every emotion you feel should be put on your face. Like, I'm furious with like
Yeah.
lines at the grocery store quite often. But if I let that go on my face, I'm just communicating to the person working their hardest to check people out and everyone in line that I value my time more than yours. I don't really care about the difficult situation you're having or your time. I just want to get myself out of here as quick as possible. And that's just selfish, man. So, like, there are times to
Well,
hide the
that's self
emotions on your
control.
face. Yeah.
Yeah, that's self control. I mean, we're called to do that.
Yeah. That's one of the fruits of the
It's like
spirit that Paul talks about in
yeah,
Galatians. Self-control is a virtue for a reason. It's not something that there's a balance here. You absolutely share. You absolutely have a confidant that knows your bigger struggles and somebody that you can go to when you need help. We need a helpmate. We need friends. We need a community of believers for that reason. But then there's also you don't show everyone every emotion you have because humans are you know downright selfish sometimes. I mean, if I'm angry at my wife, I don't show her that. I don't just put that on my face and allow those emotions to come flying out of my mouth at her. That could hurt her, right? And so I keep that under control. I manage myself and handle my anger in appropriate ways. So there's a balance between sharing and then putting every emotion you have on your face. I definitely think Matt
there's
Walsh
some
is a
self control.
yes, self-control. Exactly. Because if there's no place for self-control if you're just letting it all out.
Bliss winning.
Yeah. And too much self control, if you're never basically telling anyone anything, can prevent you from having anyone close to you. I mean, if I would never share any difficulty I had with my wife or thing that I was feeling with my wife, our connection would pretty much be zero all the time. So, yeah, there's definitely a balance here. So, but let's continue to see what he has to say here.
Matter of focus. Happy people focus on the aspects of things that make them happy. Unhappy people focus on the aspects that make them unhappy. That seems so basic that it doesn't even need to be said, but it's a basic thing that we often lose sight of. And this especially applies to parenting. If you're an unhappy parent, it's because you're choosing to focus on all of the things that you want to do but can't because you have kids, and the things that you have to do but don't want to do. For the people who wrote these laments that I just read, this focus for them has become obsessive. All they can think about is the stuff they don't want to have to do, but they have to do, and the stuff that they would prefer to do, but they can't do.
Which is the mark of a child. So basically, you have parents who have grown up and not become adults. You have children raising children, is kind of the scenario that he has here. He just said that parents are lamenting the fact that they can't do whatever they want, whenever they want, and they're complaining about it on Reddit. That is the textbook definition of a child. I want to do this, I can't, so I whine about it. And so that person is now raising a child. and so who's really at fault here? Is parenting to blame? Is having children the course of action that we shouldn't take? Or is basically remaining a perpetual child into our parenthood the action that we shouldn't take? Because clearly these people have not matured who are saying this. Clearly. They're basically whining to a community of people on the internet that they have never seen face to face. They're whining to randos about the quality of their life, and the quality of their life might actually be good. It's just that they're whining about it because they can't have everything they want. And another thing that I thought of, Jonathan, by the way, whenever I'm playing this video, you can tell me to pause it whenever you want to say something for Matt, and I'll just pause it. But yeah, another thing I thought of when he was talking is, these people also might have a bad experience of parenting because they have a trash spouse. because there are people out there who are bad, husbands and wives. And if you're trying to solo raise your children, basically with no help, that's a pretty exhausting way to live. And I really feel pity for single parents and single mothers and single fathers who are basically trying to do the work of two by themselves. And that is a heartbreaking situation. And I do understand how difficult that is. But again, we need to take into consideration here, are we going to recommend on Facebook and Instagram and Reddit to other people not to become parents just because we're having a hard time because our spouse is a douchebag? Or are we going to say, hey, parenting is actually a good thing. Children are blessings from the Lord. And the reason I'm not experiencing that right now is because I'm trying to do the work of two by myself because my spouse is not helping or whatever. And so I don't think you should just recommend people not have children and, jump on the DINK child-free movement, dual income, no kids train just because you're having a bad personal experience with it because you've made some wrong turns or your spouse has made some wrong turns, because a lot of people are having a great experience with parenting.
That's a natural human response, though. If they're having back experience, they won't even take a step back and really they don't know what the problem is. They're just sitting out there turning emotions.
Yeah, it is natural. It is natural. Like if I had a bad experience with, a certain restaurant I went to, I would just probably be tempted to badmouth it to everyone, even if the food is good. It's just like, people just need to realize their experience isn't everything. Like there are lots of people out there who are having great experiences with parenting and marriage and would recommend both to anyone that they came across because they're having a good experience with it. So just take that into consideration, before you allow somebody who's complaining about their children to influence your decision to become a parent. But let's see kind of what Matt Walsh says here.
And so they're just whining all the time in their heads and now on Reddit. I don't want to do this. I don't want to do it anymore. This is hard. I don't want to have to do these things. I want to travel. Look, it's a choice that you have made to focus your attention on those things. There are so many things in life you could focus on, and you decided to focus on the fact that you can't travel to Europe or whatever. So your unhappiness is a choice. You've decided to be miserable and wallow in your misery. And you could stay there forever, wallowing in it if you want. And then you'll be unhappy and miserable your whole life. In the process, you'll alienate everybody around you. Your kids will grow to resent you and want nothing to do with you. And then they'll get older and they'll be adults and they won't be as difficult anymore. And you're going to want to have a relationship with them at that point because it's easy now because they're out of the house and they're going to have grandkids and you're going to want to see the grandkids because the grandkids are easy, but your kids are not going to want to have that relationship. And you're going to spend the rest of your life feeling victimized. Oh, my kids ignore me. They don't come over. They don't bring the grandkids over. Why should they? You were awful to them.
Exactly. Okay. Jonathan, if your parents, when you were young, had said, like to your face and to everyone in their environment, I wish I was not a parent. Being a parent is the worst thing I've ever, done. I wish that I did not have Jonathan. If they had said that, do you think your relationship would be good with him now that you're 25, 26?
No, it wouldn't.
There's no way.
Yeah.
There's literally no way. If my parents, if your parents are awful to you when you're young, I mean, don't expect to have a great relationship with your children when they're older. I mean, gosh, it's common.
Especially
if my parents,
if you're, go ahead.
Well, you go ahead, dude. I'll finish.
If you're one, if these people are wanting to raise their child in an environment that they didn't get to have, they're trying to do right. You're not going to want to put them in an environment that you grew up in that's toxic. You don't want to be around that. You don't want them to be around that. So, no, I don't blame them. I mean, you hope there's a spot for reconciliation and make up, and that he'll salvage where they can, but it's definitely not going to be easy.
No. Yeah, definitely. Parents who do that are making their later life with their grown adult children harder on themselves because if you trash talk your children now and you basically treat them like you wish they weren't here now, your relationship with them when they get older and have their own children is not going to be good. And so good luck seeing your grandchildren. I mean, that's really, dang. And thankfully,
you're there for them when it's easy, but you weren't there for them when it's hard.
Yes, absolutely. And thankfully, I mean, Jonathan and I grew up with great parents who we can't wait to give grandchildren and who we want to be around our children. And so, the narrative that is being pushed by these Reddit folks is not the only one. Like, I want to be really clear about that. Like, Jonathan and I are going to, like, we're excited about having children. We're going to have children, and when we have children, they're going to have a great relationship with both us and our parents. And we're looking forward to that season. And, I'm not, and again, I feel like we're going to get parents on here saying, you have no idea how difficult it is to wake up to a screaming newborn in the middle of the night and be on their feeding schedule and all this. And I'm saying, I understand all that. I know it's difficult. I'm not undermining what you went through as a new parent. I'm just saying it also comes with great rewards. Parenting does, as I'm sure you will agree that your child is, you love them to the moon and back, and that you would never want to do your life without them. And so I just want people to know that parenting is a glorious, wonderful purpose that God has called you to. And, it can be a great thing. It doesn't have to be a roll in the mud, it doesn't have to be a constant battle. If you put the work in early and you train up a child in the way that he should go, according to the Proverbs, and you teach him, this is how you live. This is how we live as followers of Jesus and members of this family. We do not treat people bad. We do not throw things whenever we don't get our way. We listen to people who are in authority over us. Those are great things those are great things you can teach them. And if you do that, man, parenting can be so much easier. You're making it easier on yourself by making your children good people instead of teaching them to be bad people. And they'll carry that into their adult life. If you train up in the child in the way he should go when he's young, when he's old, he won't depart from it. I'm telling you, Scripture has so much wisdom on parenting. What you make a child, what you form and mold them into while they're young, they stay like that, man. So make them a good person while they're young, so they stay a good person when they're old. I've really enjoyed this video. We're actually out of time, but I really enjoyed this video. So thanks, Jonathan, for recommending this to me and for reviewing it with me as well. This was awesome.
No problem. It was a pleasure. I don't think so. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. It was fun. It was a fun time. If you guys enjoyed, who are listening to, or maybe you want to review a video with us, or come on the show and review a video with me as well, just reach out and talk to me through our link in the show notes that you can send me a voice message with. Actually got removed by Spotify for podcasters, so now you're going to have to go to YouTube or Instagram or Facebook. So just reach out to me there if there's a topic related to getting married or family that you would like to share about. Just reach out to me there and let me know you're interested in talking about it. I would love to have you on and talk to you. And thank you guys so much for listening today. It was wonderful. Be sure to let us know what you thought of the episode, as well as reach out and get in touch with me on Facebook. I'd love to get to know you there as well. So thank you guys so much for listening today, and we will talk to you all next time.